Hello, everyone. So glad to see you here. I'm Andre Jimenez. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist for the Washington State Historical Society, but my primary function is managing the Diversity and Local History Grant Program. And today we're going to be having an intern workshop to help all of you prospective interns learn about the program, learn how you can apply, and at the end, you'll hear from a couple of our grantees about their project scope, their organization, and what they're looking for from interns. Awesome. And again, my name is Andre Jimenez, DEI Specialist. Here's my email contact. You'll see it also at the end. But here's also the contact info for my colleagues in our Heritage Outreach Department. So we have Jay Mortensen, who is our Director of Heritage Outreach, and Allison Campbell, who is our Heritage Outreach Manager. If you have any questions at any point in the application process, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us. So WashingtonHistory.org/DLH is going to be the hub for anything relating to the Diversity and Local History Grant. So the Diversity and Local History Grant Program was funded by the Washington State Legislature to offer paid internships to support diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at heritage organizations across the state. So on this page, you will find the most up-to-date information regarding this program. You'll find grant guidelines. This is where you'll click the link to apply, where you'll find the recording of this presentation and the slides as well. And you can also see all of the funded grant programs, their project scopes, and their deliverables on this website as well. So if you hear nothing else from this presentation today, please write down this link because it's going to be the hub for everything related to DLH. So some key points of this program, like I said, the Diversity and Local History Grant Program awards small grants to heritage organizations, some that are in the room here today, to fund paid internships to support DEI initiatives. These internships will support the integration of DEI principles into an organization's operations and promote long-term focuses on inclusive history practices. This program is eligible for any current college or university student, or if you've graduated within the past 2 years and currently reside in Washington. So just a little bit about the timeline of this program. Today is the internship workshop, November 16th. The next major deadline is the priority application deadline, which is November 29th. On November 29th, any of the applications that are submitted are going to be sent to the grantees, and they can begin looking at their applicant pool and making offers or having interviews. So it's really important that you make it a priority to get your application in by the November 29th deadline. Now, we are leaving the application open until all 11 projects have been funded, but we are giving priority to those who make it in before that November 29th deadline. Now, December is going to be our grantee contracting. So we're going to be working with our organizations once they've made their choice for intern regarding project scope, contracting with them, and getting ready for our launch in January. So the project and the internships will start January 1 and will go to June 30th. You can extend a little bit past there. There's a little bit of leeway if you need to shorten the internship or extend it just a little bit, but please do expect that you will be working for those entire 6 months of the contract period. Like I said, the last kind of deadline is June 30th, 2022. Grant project should be completed, internships should be finalized, and final report should be submitted to the Washington State Historical Society. Now, the biggest question I get is who is eligible? Eligible interns include currently enrolled students at an accredited institution of higher education in Washington State. We purposely left that broad and vague because we want to attract a diverse pool of candidates. So if you're a student at a community college, a four-year college, or a graduate school program, you're eligible to apply. We also realize that some students have already graduated and could really use this experience or trying to find jobs in the museum's field. And so we wanted to broaden out that base from not just current students, but students who have graduated within the last 2 years. So if you are in the class of 2019 and you currently reside in Washington State. This is really important because this is state funded. So the legislature wants to make sure that we are funding Washington State residents to do this incredibly vital work. So grantee responsibilities. So each of the interns are going to be paired with an organization. And I thought that it was important for us to talk about what you can expect out of your grantee organizations. So organizations must provide a project manager for interns who is in a position to offer guidance and make decisions about the project. Several of the project managers for the projects in the room today, and you'll hear a little bit from them, but each of them has professional training in museum studies, public history, anthropology, etc. And they are expected by the Historical Society to have regular check-ins with the intern to guide their work, offer project support, and offer professional development and guidance. We realize that this is a paid internship, that you are providing a service to the organization, but we also realize that this is an educational experience and want to make sure that your organizations are providing the support and professional guidance so that you grow through this process as well. The organizations also must fund and pay interns $18 an hour at a minimum, at least twice a month, so that you're receiving a regular paycheck. We realize the inequities that are involved with unpaid or stipend internships, and so we want to make sure that we're equalizing the playing field and allowing access to these grant programs. Also included with this internship is Washington State Historical Society's support. So interns will have the ability to negotiate hours, project scope, and schedule with their paired organization with the support of Washington State Historical Society staff. I've spoken with all of these grantees. They're incredibly flexible. They're incredibly willing to work with interns and will help facilitate any of those conversations. Interns will also have the ability to meet and learn from our staff outside of the Heritage Outreach Department. So at the Historical Society, you'll have access to our curatorial team, exhibits team, our volunteer management side, our education team, marketing, communications, or just general management. So a lot of resources. We're going to have programming through the entire 6 months to support you and your organizations as you guys work together to broaden the stories we tell and the audiences that we serve. Oh, another big question I get is, what kind of projects do you have? Now, when we did the grantee workshop a couple months ago, I didn't know what type of projects that we would have because this is our inaugural year. But through this competitive process, our external review committee looked through several applications. We had a really competitive pool this year, and we chose to select 11 projects for you guys to apply to. So these projects fell into 3 main categories: outreach, collections, and interpretations. So outreach, which is the largest category, is anything to do with strategic planning, making sure that DEI policies are being written, being followed, being implemented, and put into practice. So this is really about diversifying the stories that we tell, and specifically the audiences that we welcome and serve in our heritage organizations. So from the outreach side, we have the Holocaust Center for Humanity, the Everett Museum of History, Highline Heritage Museum, Washington Trust for Historic Preservation, and the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum. Now, from the collection side, we have Jefferson County Historical Society, Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center, and the Franklin County Historical Society. Projects in this category are going to be focused on, obviously, the collections of the museum, but more broadly, most of them are collections audits. So they're looking at what is in their collections and what's not in their collections. What stories are they missing and what stories can they broaden to tell a more inclusive history. And then lastly, our last category is our interpretations. So the physical exhibits, one of them is an interpretive marker. So if you're looking for something hands-on, if you're looking to get on the exhibit side, this is the category for you. So in that category, we have the City of Lacey, the Neely Mansion Association, and the Southwest Seattle Historical Society. Now, what's the application process? So applications must be submitted through the Heritage portal at washingtonhistory.org/portal. You can also access it at that DLH website that we talked about earlier, so washingtonhistory.org/DLH. You must create an individual login to access the application, and this process can take 2 to 3 business days. So I highly recommend that you don't wait until the morning of November 29th to jump in there because your registration may not be accepted in time. So once registered, users will be able to update their profile and see the intern application. Applications can be saved and revisited as often as needed. So you can go in there, you can pull out the questions, put them in a Google Doc, which is what I like to do, and you can fill it all out and come back in. Or if you prefer, you can go in and write the narrative portions as needed, fill out the sections and come back to it and start and stop as needed. Alrighty, so I'm going to stop screen sharing this slide and I'm going to pull up the intern application and we're going to walk through that together so that you can see the type of questions and the type of information that we're looking for. Awesome. So this is what your intern application is going to look like. We purposely made sure that it was as streamlined as possible so that we were not creating a barrier to you applying. As such, all of the information in here is going to be sent to your individual grantees. So make sure that you're presenting yourself as best as possible and that you're providing information that is going to help them see why you are the best fit for their organization. So at the top, you have obviously some contact information, email, phone number, current address. This is so that your prospective grantees or organizations that you're going to be working with can contact you, obviously. The next part is we have a couple of short narrative sections. So each of these have a character limit of 750 characters, which is around 300 to 350 words. So in total, less than 1,000 words of writing. So we wanted to know why you're interested in this internship program. What are your professional aspirations and goals for the future? And then lastly, why it is important for heritage organizations to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. And lastly, what does inclusive history mean to you? So this is your opportunity to let the organizations who are going to be reading your application know why you value DEI work, what experience you have in this field, and what inclusive history means to you. So this will kind of help take some of the other pieces of your application and humanize them and give you the opportunity to really delve into the DEI specific portion of your application. Here we have optional markers for race and ethnicity and gender. There is a prefer not to respond. So if you're uncomfortable adding these or identifying this way, feel free to just skip and move on. Next is academic information. This is an educational internship. We're looking for current students or students that have recently graduated. So we just ask for your current or most recent college or university name and department. Then your major and area of focus. Now, I didn't mention this before, but we purposefully left the major and area of focus broad because we realized that you don't have to be in the museum studies major to do this work. So it can be anything from anthropology, sociology, gender, ethnic, and labor studies, education, marketing, or something more in the traditional museum studies realm. So feel free, if you have questions about whether your major applies or whether you're eligible, please reach out to any one of us here at the Heritage team or the Historical Society team, and we can talk through and discuss your options. We want you also to list any past and current degrees earned or that you're in the progress of earning. And then this last section here, we asked you to please describe your academic experience and the classes you have enjoyed most or learned the most from. So this gives us a chance, we do ask for your transcript at the end, but this gives us a chance for you to talk about any classes that you have enjoyed, any coursework that you've excelled in. So let's say that you are a marketing student, but you've taken, you have a minor in public history. or you have a minor in anthropology. This is a really great opportunity for you to talk about why you chose those classes, what you enjoyed about them, what you learned from them, and how that's influencing your work moving forward. Next is the project information. So the really great thing about this program is we are offering 11 opportunities, and you can apply to all 11 opportunities. You can apply to 1 to 5 of them, all within one application. So we don't require you to submit 11 different applications for this program. So as you're going through, you'll be able to see all 11 projects at once. And we talked about those categories, and we've color coded them here. So you can see project number 1 is the Holocaust Center for Humanity, who's on the call today. And they are an outreach project. So you can see here, you have the contact information, you have an email and phone number. Below that, you have a project scope, who the intern will report to, and project deliverables. You can also see up at the top too, where the organization is located and how many hours they're expecting from their intern so that you can make the right decision for you. So if this is a project that you're interested in, you would click yes. And then a little drop down would come and you can put any comments, questions, or concerns about the project parameters or objectives. If you're not interested in this, let's say that you live down in Olympia and commuting to Seattle every week is not feasible, you can just click no, and it'll minimize and you never have to look at it again. And you can move on to the next one. So project number 2. So any of the ones that you say yes to on that November 29th deadline, I'm going to send all of those applications. So anyone who said, I want to work on project number 1 with the Holocaust Center for Humanity, I'm going to send all of those applications over to the Holocaust Center. Any ones that you say no to, I obviously won't send over. So make sure that you're really looking at each one of these 11 projects. And even if you're mildly interested, I would still click yes so that you're in that pool so that you can have a chance to contact the grantees to learn more about their organization, learn more about their project scope, and possibly get an interview. We also included the contact information here as well. So even before you apply, you can contact any one of these organizations and ask questions and talk with them, learn about their company culture, learn about their expectations and the project scope before applying. And I highly recommend that you do so. So you can go through all 11 projects here. We have the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum also here with us, project number 5. And then project number 6, we also have Ellie here from the Jefferson County Historical Society, who you'll hear from in a little bit. So yeah, go through, there's no rating involved. You just have to say whether you're interested or not in these programs. And please, by all means, feel free, if you're interested in all 11, by all means, click yes to all of them. So next is a really important section. It's about availability. So we're asking, are you required to complete an internship for your program? And then, the next question is, do you prefer to work remote, in person, or in a hybrid model, or a blend of remote and in person? And then the last question, which I think is the most important and requires a thoughtful response, is how flexible are you on all of the above preferences? So if you have, if you're not able to do in person, you need to put this in here. If you're, if you don't work well in a remote environment, this is a really great space to write that in so that your grantees have all of that information before they contact you. But also make sure that you're flexible. We're asking our grantees and organizations to be flexible with you, and we ask the same thing from you. So especially in the collections and interpretations categories, sometimes having a full remote internship is just not feasible. So if you are looking or applying to any of those projects, just keep that in mind as you're filling out this section of the application. And then lastly, documents. So we ask for 4 main documents, a personal letter of interest. So think of this as a cover letter for any job or scholarship that you apply to. Next is a resume or CV. So we just want to get a snapshot of your academic and professional work experience. 3 references. So instead of letters of recommendation, we're just asking that you provide your reference's name, affiliation, phone, email, and the relationship to you. and then an academic transcript. And that does two things for us. So one, it verifies that you are a student, but secondly, it also gives the grantee organizations a chance to look at the courses that you've taken, the interests that you have, and how you've excelled in those courses. So you'll upload those documents here, and all of those documents will be sent to your to the projects that you've expressed interest in. So really, really streamlined application, really easy to apply to 11 internship opportunities at once if you so choose. So that is all that I have in the form of the intern application. So I'm going to stop sharing. And the part that I'm most excited about is we have a couple of our grantee organizations in the room here today. And I would love for them to just jump on the mic one by one. So I'll call on you. And they're just going to talk a little bit about their project scope and their organization's goals, values, and then specifically what they're looking for in an intern, which can help some of you as you guys are applying. So first up, I would love to have Project One, the Holocaust Center for Humanity. Devin, if you're ready, please feel free to jump on the mic and talk to your prospective interns.
Hi, so my name is Devin Shire, or Devin, and I go by she, her pronouns. And the Holocaust Center was at first an organization founded in 1989 by a small group of local to Washington Holocaust survivors. And they decided that it felt important to them to share their experiences, their stories from the Holocaust, which is difficult for many survivors to do, but they felt was something that was really needed at the time, and particularly to combat Holocaust denial, which was bubbling up to the surface in the 80s. And we still see today. Now, the Holocaust Center for Humanity is a small museum. We have a little exhibit called Finding Light in the Darkness, small but mighty, we like to call it. But we also have a pretty sizable collection of over 60,000 artifacts, many of which came from local Jewish families. And we have a library of Holocaust literature that, you know, if it weren't COVID times, would be open to the public, and you could come read various pieces on the Holocaust, including books for young folks, graphic novels, things like that. And now we are operating primarily online, but also still going to schools, sending speakers to schools. We have a speakers bureau of folks who talk about their own experiences or their family's experience in the Holocaust. And we also have folks joining our speakers bureau from other backgrounds as well. Some non-Jewish folks, book authors, folks who were in other genocides or survived other genocides around the world. And we mostly offer educational resources for teachers who teach the Holocaust, whether it be through literature or social studies or history or art. We have art teachers as well. And we do student field trips and community educational programming, including Ambassadors for Change, which is what my background is still stuck as, one of our ambassador groups for young adults. And the idea of the Holocaust Center is really to teach people about the sort of human, personal, individual stories that comprise the narrative of the Holocaust. And it's more than just a museum or a Jewish cultural center. Their focus right now, while we are sort of revamping our strategic plan for the next 3 years, is how can we take these lessons from the Holocaust and make them even more applicable to today? We want to help students in our community face ongoing issues, many of which, you know, unfortunately often lead to genocide. It's the little things, you know, it's racism, it's xenophobia, it's discrimination at the small levels that build up to something like the Holocaust. And so how can we address those smaller things that we experience every day to keep something like the Holocaust from ever happening again? So the scope of this internship is pretty ground level. It's an opportunity to work with our executive director, who's fabulous, Dee, while she works on this strategic plan to incorporate DEI goals and objectives into that plan. We do, like I said, our work is very diverse. The topics that we use to teach the lessons of the Holocaust are getting more and more inclusive, but as an organization, we haven't developed a diversity statement. We are still working on how we want to define these terms. And so the intern would help us sort of organize these thoughts so that we have a foundational understanding as an organization before we continue, seeking out these new realms in our work, which is really important. So it's a little more internal faced. It's a little more foundational, and mostly involves, coming up with some ideas or strategies that won't be implemented yet, but will be incorporated into our strategic planning. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. Really excited to see the applicants that choose the Holocaust Center for Humanity, and interested to see what this project looks like over the course of the next 6 months. So if you're ready, project number 5, the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum. We would love to hear from you about your project scope and what you're looking for in an intern.
I'll lead off and let Greg chime in. And Greg is doing a great job there because he has as his backdrop Bigelow House Museum. So it's an 1860s era home in Olympia that was built by Daniel and Anne Elizabeth White Bigelow. They were prominent suffragists during the territorial period. And you can see there that Susan B. Anthony came to the house in 1871. So the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House owns the Bigelow House and maintains it. We're an all volunteer group. The Olympia Historical Society is mainly an online organization. We do not have at this time a separate museum, but we have a very robust website, including beginnings of a lot of diversity information about Olympia. The project that we proposed is really to create a framework for outreach into the community and a plan then to inform and create partnerships that will enhance our information, our programming, and particularly our collections. Hopefully a lot of those will be digital. So we want to create an outreach strategy and framework with a document that will be a good reference point for our board. And we want to, as I mentioned, plan for future programming, mapping, and archival work. And so it's a lot of outreach, also documentation of diverse communities in Olympia over time, creating resources where folks can learn more about that, as well as a demonstration project with 3 communities using the outreach strategy. And we're really hoping to be able to work with communities about how we can support them and how we can really bring their stories forward in everything that we do. So we're looking for a variety of skills. First and foremost, someone who has ability to do research, planning ability, writing, self-motivated, and creativity. And it's going to be a lot of understanding how to approach organizations, listen to what they have to say, and as I said, provide a framework so we can really work better with all of these organizations. So it's going to take quite a bit of research, but also a lot of interpersonal skills with the organizations, and also working with our board. Our board, like a lot of boards, will be learning a lot through this process. So there's going to be a lot of give and take with the board as well as the community, and we're hoping to get really some fresh perspectives for our community and our board. I actually retired from the Washington State Historical Society, and I was the coordinator of the Women's History Consortium before I retired. So I have a lot of interest in women's history, and will bring that perspective as well. I'm a longtime resident of Olympia, and have authored a few books about Olympia and the Thurston County area. So I will be hopefully a good resource for the intern. And our website is really good as far as helping people understand what the resources are in our community. So I'll turn it over to Greg.
Well, thank you, Shanna. I think that was an excellent kind of orientation in terms of our project and who we are. I would not add much, although maybe just sort of embellish on some of your remarks, Shanna. Again, sort of tidbits of information or insights for prospective interns who would be interested in working with us. Again, I would emphasize that we do not have an executive director or full-time staff. Our board essentially serves, our board members, including Shanna and myself, are essentially kind of the operatives of the organization at this point. And we have in addition to our board members, we have a few key volunteers. So all of us are volunteering our time to operate and make the organization function as it does. So I think that's important to keep in mind. I would also add that, as Shanna mentioned, many of us are retirees. So we are pretty flexible and open to working with internees. I would be the intern's contact. So you would be working closely with me in terms of direction for your work, but not solely. So Shannon would also be a key contact for you. We're also looking into putting together what we're calling an advisory board of community members and board members who would be providing kind of direction and insights, inputs for you. So I think we're really excited about that. So I guess I would say that our organization functions much like many kind of small town historical societies and historical museums that you might be familiar with if you're working in museums or history. We do manage the Bigelow House Museum. Again, the picture behind us, closed now because of COVID precautions as well, but we're also undertaking many significant projects that we see as being important for preserving the house, but also sort of positioning ourselves for future programming and tours and so forth. So I think that's something that prospective interns would like to think about. I'd also like to encourage prospective interns who are interested in working with us to go to our website. Again, as Shannon mentioned, I think we have a great website with lots of information. So going there and sort of seeing what kinds of tabs we have and projects that we're working on, old newsletters would be a really good way to get acquainted with who we are and what kind of work, what we're involved in to this point. I think that would give you a real good sample of what we're involved in. And I think Shannon mentioned to you our effort that our website consultant has put together a list of links for diverse community history. So that would be, I think, a good place to start as well. But there's also a lot of information as well that I think would give you insight in terms of who we are, what we're about, kinds of projects that we have been involved in. So I think I'll end it there, but we look forward to hearing from you and look forward to working with you beginning in January. So thank you. Thanks, Andre.
Awesome. And for the people viewing the recording, can you share that link or the website name, Greg, that you referenced?
Yes, it's olympiahistory.org.
Awesome. Easy. olympiahistory.org. Awesome. So please check them
Olympia
out.
History.
Yes.
Yeah, olympiahistory.org. So yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, make sure to check them out. And then we will move on to project number 6, Jefferson County Historical Society. They are in our collections category, and we're really excited to hear from Ellie.
Thank you, Andre. So I'm with the Jefferson County Historical Society, which is out in Port Townsend. It's about roughly 2 hours from Seattle, deceptively close by map, and much further away when you are driving or on public transportation. The Jefferson County Historical Society, or JCHS, is about 142 years old. We've been collecting for a really long time. And so our collection has about 500,000 objects. It's quite a few. We have 10 staff members. It's split between full-time and half-time. And 2 of us are here at this facility. We manage 5 sites. So 2 of them are at the research center, which is where I am. We have very recently gotten a new executive director about 3.5 years ago. Her name is Shelley, and she's been bringing some really great diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion work to our organization. And that's why we're kicking off this project. And we're so excited that the Washington State Historical Society has made this available. I recommend checking out our website. It's jchsmuseum.com. Reading our strategic plan. We did that in March of 2020 is when we launched it, which was maybe not the best time, but we have revisited it and integrated the pandemic a little bit more thoroughly into our strategic plan since then. And the newest version was reviewed this last year. It's also on our website, along with our diversity and inclusivity statements. Our collections have largely been represented from a Eurocentric perspective, and we do know this because we've been collecting for so long. Different cultures that have been collected by people are still being described from that Eurocentric perspective. And a lot of the things that have been collected, we suspect, we don't know, that's part of what this internship is about, is confirming what we suspect. We believe that we have heavily represented those white, middle class, and wealthier stories than some of the other stories that we know exist in our community and we want to tell. But we can't do that work without understanding what we have first. So this intern, we're really excited to have help us understand what we have misdescribed in our collections because we were bringing that Eurocentric lens to objects or stories that we may not have understood by not connecting with the culture that was being represented. And working with this person to really understand what we're missing and what we've done really well. Although this is a collections internship, it does have the ability to have some hybrid and remote work. I know that we are in a remote location and that may be a barrier for some people. So don't let that be a barrier to applying. Please do let us know what you need and we can try to work around that. We've gotten some great experience in the last 1.5 years with the pandemic, and we actually have internet, which is great. It's very, very helpful out here. This work will help guide the development of a collecting plan to help ensure the diversity of our collection and inclusive stories, and will actually be feeding into more work that we're doing in our strategic plan, as well as new exhibits that we're hoping to bring out a few years in the future. But without knowing what we have in our collection, we can't do those justice. So please do the contact information. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellie. It's so great hearing from 3 of our 11 projects. I know that any interns that would be selected for these organizations are going to do amazing work and are going to be heavily supported. But there are 8 other projects for you to check out on the intern application. So I suggest that you look at these 3 and the other 8 and make the decision that's right for you. That's the beauty of this application and of this process, is that you have access to all 11 of these opportunities. So I encourage you to go onto our website, washingtonhistory.org/DLH, where you can learn more about the program, read the guidelines, eligibility requirements, and then apply. Thank you so much to all of the grantees and the organizations that are in the room today. We appreciate you taking your time out to talk to prospective interns, talk about your organizations and about your goals for this project. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to email me or go onto the website at washingtonhistory.org/DLH. Talk to you soon. Bye.